Tyrese Haliburton hits an absolutely insane shot. Is it a shot of the year candidate? The Cavs cannot lose. Did Anthony Edwards just hint at taking his talents to South Beach? The Celtics and the Thunder are due for a possible finals preview tonight. March Madness. It's for the pros too. That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network, he's the man of 1,000 podcasts. It's Matt Moore.
What a shot!
That's all you can say. Like, it was just amazing. And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, the Prince of Petty, it's Hayes.
It's definitely shot of the year. I don't care what anybody's saying. Recency bias be damned.
Okay, well, we have your answer. I'm going to ask Matt that in a few minutes as well. If you missed it, Pacers-Bucks last night. You missed an incredible back-and-forth game of runs, lots of star heroics culminating in the Pacers running what I think can only be described as like an NFL four-vert style of out-of-bounds play that found Tyrese Haliburton in the corner, covered and smothered by Giannis Antetokounmpo. He somehow puts the Pacers ahead. That's where they would stay. Pacers get the win. Here's Tony East from Locked On Pacers with his view from the Fieldhouse.
I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he could see the rim with Giannis flying at him like that. I don't know how he got that power on that shot to get it to the basket with the way he faded when he jumped. I don't know how he stayed in bounds. I don't know how he kept his composure when getting fouled, but he did all of it and just flung it up and made it and drew a foul with 3.4 seconds to go. It was a bang play, perfectly executed. Haliburton said that when they run that play in practice before, he made that shot the first time and then has never made it since. It worked perfectly, and it was a masterful, unbelievable shot. Haliburton has to sit on it for several real-life minutes before a huge pressure free throw that he hits. Giannis misses at the buzzer, decent look, and the Pacers win. What an unbelievable shot. The stones, the moment, the difficulty was just ridiculous.
Not to mention the fact that Haliburton coming off of missing 3 games that the Pacers lost, but they get this win. Matt, you heard Hayes, shot of the year. Was it shot of the year for you? Was it game of the year between the Pacers and Bucks?
I'm not going to go game of the year, but I will say shot of the year. It was absolutely shot of the year. The difficulty on that route. Tony mentioned about how often they've done it in practice and how he never gets that shot. It's not that he doesn't get the shot to go in. It's that he doesn't get the ball. He had asked the Pacers coaches to move him in that play because he never gets the ball. They stuck with it, and he hits that one. Absolutely just incredible. The difficulty on it. I am so hyped that Tyrese Haliburton is back to being awesome. I know the overall numbers were not great for him last night, but they've been so good over the course of the last two months. Phenomenal. I love it when these two teams face off, Hayes. Like, this matchup is so much fun.
Quote Patrick Ewing, do you practice that shot? Apparently he does. So shout out to Haliburton for practicing that shot. No, it was an amazing shot. Like I said at the top of the show, it really was a shot of the year. And Tyrese Haliburton, who missed a couple games to come back and be able to put up, that type of shot. He only had 14 points on the night, but the last 4 were the most important. For them to be down and go to end it on that type of shot on a random Tuesday on the NBA. This is why you got to watch basketball every single night, right? You can't take a night off for watching basketball because it's a random matchup on any given night that just can be an amazing game. I won't say it's game of the year. I agree with Matt. I can't say that, but this was some of the most fun I had. And jumping out my seat at the end of that game was crazy.
And for all the torture that late game situations and the reviews put us through,
yeah,
like that shot's going to be replayed forever. Like, it's going to be in highlight combos about the NBA for years, for decades. We're going to see that one over and over and over again. That's how good it was. I know it's a random game in March, but it really was that good. I'm captain of the March basketball. Doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, that was awesome. It was absolutely phenomenal. And that's why it's like, and if you watch, you get to remember like, oh, I remember when he hit that shot. That's just a cool thing about sports.
I was going to say Matt Moore is the ultimate March litmus test. Like if it impresses Matt in March, you know something amazing just happened. Should mention that Reggie Miller, Pacers legend, who's hit a ton of great shots for the Pacers himself, also in the building for that moment. Awesome to see Tyrese get that. So the race for 4, 5, 6 right now, super tight in the Eastern Conference between the Pacers, Bucks, and Pistons. Hayes, what do you want to see? Would you like to see Pacers, Bucks go 7 games in the 4-5 matchup, or do you like the Pistons and one of those teams better in the playoffs?
I actually like the way it's in now. I love the Bucks and the Pacers as the 4-5 matchup. I like the Detroit Pistons and New York Knicks as the 3-6 matchup. I love the way that it is right now. Both those two series may be the most exciting series in the first round of the playoffs.
The Pacers are it's like the little brother that the big brother is like, wait, are you better than me? Like that's like what they're dealing with, right? Like they knock him out last year in the playoffs, no Giannis, and there's got to be a sense of like, well, as long as we got Giannis, and like I was screaming from the rooftops, if Giannis plays in that series, I still like the Pacers in that series. It's a bad matchup for them. And so like the Bucks have that kind of this air of like, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, we have Damian Lillard, we should be a serious contender, but they're not. And the Pacers, meanwhile, are like, no one thinks that we're serious. No one takes us seriously, but we will mess up your day. It's great. And then you have like the opportunity for the possibility. It's minute, but the possibility of the Pistons coming in and just wrecking the Knicks and all the hype. Oh, chef's kiss. Let's get the playoffs started.
Yeah, I love the idea of Pacers Bucks because I think it would be one of the great counter arguments to this idea that stylistically the NBA is the same across the board, because you have the Pacers, the speed demons, you've got Bucks who want to try to beat you with power. I mean, obviously they've got Dame Lillard, but they want to beat you with power. And I think I looked at one point in the game and the Pacers had like a 27-3 advantage in the fast break against Milwaukee. I just think it would be a fun mix of styles. Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. All right, Hallie's heroics were certainly impressive. Let me throw a couple of other things at Matt and Hayes and see if they thought they were just as impressive or impressive in general. How about the Cavaliers? They won their 15th straight game for the second time this season, matching the streak that they had to open the season. Hayes, are you impressed? Oh, it's just choking him up. He's choking him up.
That's how impressed he is.
Yes, I am impressed. Impressed not only because it's a 15-game win streak, but it's the second time they've done it in the season. That's crazy. Like what the Cavs are doing this year. And keep in mind, I started off this year as one of those people saying, hey, I'll wait and see what the Cavs are. They're playing really good right now. I need to see it for longer. And they've not only done it for that amount of time, they've continued to just impress and improve and play better. I love the trade as well that they made at the trade deadline. I think that equips them better to match up against Boston in the playoffs. I love what the Cavs doing. Thoroughly impressed by the Cavs.
Get some water, my man. I will go further. Okay, I'm feeling excited and optimistic and energetic today, so I will go this far. They're better than they were to start the season. Do you know how rare that is? I declared in January, I got a tweet out there that I will not delete that said that, well, you know what, Cavs had a good run, but they probably peaked too early. And Cavs fans were throwing that back in my face every single night. You know what? You can do that. Keep throwing it back in my face, because not only have the Cavs maintained how good they are, they're better. They're up to 6th in pick and roll defense, including kickouts. This is such an important deal. For much of the season, the Cavaliers were an offensive juggernaut that could not get stops. They were not bad defensively. They were just like, yeah, they're pretty good. Like not really elite, but like, look at the offense. That's great. That's a bad kind of profile if you're looking for great playoff success. But you know what they are now? Now they're an offense you can't stop that will also get consistent stops. Their rim protection is great. Their pick and roll defense is awesome. Evan Mobley, I am convinced, is now the defensive player of the year. This team is legit. I am so excited for this playoff run. The Cavs are amazing.
And their next game, they get a couple days off. Their next game Friday at Memphis. That's going to be one that we'll definitely preview. Make sure to check out Locked On Cavs and Locked On Grizzlies in the lead up to that game. All right, one more thing that I want to throw at Matt and Hayes. on whether they're impressed or not, and it has to do with Zion Williamson. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Plus, the takes were flying on the Locked On NBA network of local podcasts. Weren't a lot of games last night, so people were able to do a little dreaming. And I want to ask Matt and Hayes if they were dreaming a little too hard. Are they awake or are they dreaming? We'll talk about that on the other side. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Wayfair. Now, we're well past the holidays. We're on the doorstep now of spring cleaning. The weather's warming up. There's nothing like giving your home a little TLC right now. Decluttering, refreshing your space can make a world of difference as you settle back into your routine, whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just looking to give your home a fresh new look for the year. Wayfair has everything you need, and it's all within your budget. I used Wayfair to design my entire nursery for our newborn, and now the newborn's a lot older, and we're getting new furniture for her now, and we're using Wayfair. Their massive selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit our family style perfectly, and the best part, free, hassle-free delivery even on the bigger items. Plus, their site is super user-friendly. I had everything I wanted in no time, and now it's time to find a comfortable chair that I can watch some NBA playoff basketball in. I'll be using Wayfair to help me find the perfect one. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. This episode is also sponsored by TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so that you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guaranteed. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. So I have one more thing that I'll try to impress Matt and Hayes with. Zion Williamson scored a triple-double for the second time in 2 weeks in a Pelicans upset win against the Los Angeles Clippers. Matt, are you impressed not just by the triple-doubles, but Zion Williamson's play of late, the way he looks, the way he's moving out on the floor for the New Orleans Pelicans?
Yes, of course I'm impressed. What person would not be? What person that takes basketball seriously would not be impressed by such a performance of a player playing well? Here's the thing. The reason I think that there's a tension with Zion and how we're all kind of like, oh, that's cool. So anyway, is just you don't want to start getting sucked in again. Do you know how many times we've done this where we're like, man, he's good. He's so good. All right. I'm in on Zion. No, he's out again. No. All right. Oh, he's back. Okay, cool. We'll see how he does. Oh my God, he's awesome. He's so incredible. And he's out again. So there is a part of us that are just kind of like, let's move on to the next thing. There are a lot of players that will have in their careers in the first 4 to 5 years injury issues, and then they move past them. And it's possible that with Zion, he can be reaching that point. And when he does it and he has that moment, I'll be there to absolutely crown him. I think it's important to note how good he's been. I think it's important to credit him for how good he's been and that he's playing. I also want to say this. It'd be very easy for Zion to be like, see y'all next year, because the Pelicans aren't going anywhere or doing anything. But instead, he's out there competing, playing, and trying to get better. And that to me matters. But it's hard to get real excited about it because of the injury stuff, Hayes.
I completely agree with you. The Zion's performance is definitely something worth talking about. It's awesome to see him out there giving effort and playing the way that he is, because we all know how special Zion Williamson can be when he's on the court. The biggest question has been how consistent is he going to be on the court? So Matt's 100% right to say that, like, there's always that thing in the back of your mind, like, okay, how long is this one going to last? How long is this streak going to last before we're not going to see Zion for a little bit of time again? And that's where it always is concerning with Zion. We all know how special Zion can be. We've seen it. He's shown it. He can be outright dominant dominating when he's on the court. So yeah, let's appreciate this. Let's appreciate he's there. Hopefully he has a strong finish to the season. He can use it as a launching pad into next season, because if Zion Williamson can ever just stay healthy, I think that this Pelicans team and franchise as a whole will be in a much different place, because he is that level of talent when he's on the basketball court.
Doug, as somebody who covers LaMelo Ball, how do you guard yourself against being too negative on a player that misses time due to injury, and then being able to appreciate and respect what they are able to accomplish on the court, while also being like, yeah, but how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. I think you just have to be realistic about what could possibly happen. Just to have an understanding that all of this, enjoy it now. I think that's the attitude that we've had. It's like every time you see LaMelo Ball, when he puts up 40 plus, 50, when he has crazy assists, like just enjoy it, because you don't know. There's no guarantee with any player, but particularly ones that have injury issues or issues with staying on the floor. So it's a good lesson there. Certainly Hornets fans are dreaming of LaMelo Ball turning into the player that they want. New Orleans Pelicans, they're dreaming about it. I hope that he does, because I'm tired of the New Orleans Pelicans getting first overall picks and it not working out. I mean, the NBA is just better when first overall selections work out. And there were a lot of Locked On local hosts doing some dreaming on their podcast this week. Only 4 games last night, which meant that a lot of them had time to step back, evaluate their team's present and future, and the takes were flying. The hosts were dreaming, maybe too big. Let's play a little game of awake or dreaming. I'm going to play Matt and Hayes something from a Locked On local show, and they have to tell me if it's possible or if the hosts, the fan base, maybe the player in question are dreaming. First up, let's start with the ultimate dreamers. I think they've been asleep since Butler demanded a trade. I'm, of course, talking about the Locked On Heat podcast, who welcomed the Dan Le Batard Show's Jeremy Taché on their latest episode. Let's take a listen to that.
Edwards posted a video on his YouTube channel about spending some time in Miami during the All-Star break, working out at the Heat's facility. And this has Heat fans imagining Anthony Edwards working out at the Heat's facility full-time, as a member, perhaps, of the Miami Heat.
If you do want to read into it in a positive way, this is a place where he wants to spend his time. I can't imagine that there are no conversations happening between Anthony Edwards and someone around the Heat, whether it's Bam, whether it's Spo, whether it's someone letting him in the building. Like these things get coordinated and these conversations happen. So it's never a bad thing when you have a star hanging around your facility.
Okay, one day I'm going to develop a look for the YouTube viewers where we can see Matt and Hayes' reaction to these clips, because Matt's was priceless. I'll start with you, Matt. Anthony Edwards flirting with the Heat. Is Locked On Heat? Are Heat fans awake, or are they dreaming?
I hate you, Doug, because it feels like 5 weeks ago, this is a perfectly reasonable segment. And after the Luka Doncic trade, how could I possibly say that anyone's dreaming ever? Look, I've always kind of said, like, I think Ant is such a big personality and is so outright in what he expects of his career and the team around him that it isn't going to shock me if he winds up somewhere else that has nice weather. Like, it's just, this is the pattern of the NBA. Do I want that? No, like, Wolves fans were livid with me over making a comment about that with the Lakers. And I was like, guys, I don't want this for you. I want him to stay there and be a Wolf forever. He should be a Minnesota Timberwolf for his entire career. That's the best story. It's just not what happens in this league. So, like, yeah, is it possible? Sure. But the Miami Heat are going to have to get back to actually building a winning program and not putting their culture on T-shirts and on the floor. Like, you got to get back to actually being that franchise instead of saying you're that franchise. If you can do that, then sure, I think it's possible Anthony Edwards could wind up in Miami.
Inception, is that the name of the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
That's what they're in right now. Because no, like I get it. You can never say it's impossible, right? But if we're talking about like it happening anytime soon, no, it's not going to happen. Now, it wouldn't surprise me a star leaves Minnesota after not being able to get over the hump with the Timberwolves. We've heard that a couple of times, right, in like the last couple of decades. So, yeah, there's a chance of that happening. But I think if they are daydreaming about this being something that's on the horizon anytime soon or whatever because he worked out in their facilities and loved it, like, come on. No. Like, let's wake up a little bit. Let's get a little bit more reality in there. Let's wait a few years. You're probably looking at 4-5 years until that's even an option.
Well, Timberwolves fall out of the first round of the playoffs. I mean, if you've heard some of Anthony Edwards' post-game press conferences, he sounds like Heat culture. I don't know. I don't really know what that means, but he sounds like Heat culture. Let's go next up to the Locked On Mavericks podcast. They wish this season was a dream. Unfortunately, it is reality. Let's see what they have for us.
Larson sat down on the Mavs YouTube channel and from Mavs TV. Did an interview with Anthony Davis over the weekend. And he sat down, he talked about a lot of things. It's kind of his first sit-down interview he's had since joining the Mavericks. And the big thing, the big quote that's going around right now that I saw people talking about was, quote, "I know the city was down because of the Luka thing. At the same time, I know who I am as a player, top 75 of all time. I just want to let the Dallas fans know that I'm here. I got you. I'm here now. I know you lost a superstar in Luka, but you gained a superstar in myself."
I'm not laughing at AD. I'm laughing at Matt Moore's reaction again. Hayes, I'm going to start with you. AD promising Dallas that they have a superstar. Is he awake or is he dreaming?
I mean, they have a star. I mean, technically, yes, but it's a falling one because he's always hurt. So, I mean, cool. I'm glad in the confidence. I'm glad in trying to rally a locker room together. But like Anthony Davis, it's just not stable. It's not stable. So I'll say he's more awake than sleeping on this one, but it's still wild to say.
Pelicans put a good team around him finally. It took him a long time because they rushed it, but they put a good team around him. They made the playoffs. They beat the Portland Trail Blazers, and it was their time. That summer, Rich Paul happens. Rich Paul happens to so many good franchises. Okay? He pieces out that entire season, bails on that team, including Drew Holiday, which, how dare you, sir, goes to LA. We are 5 years. Was he ever the best player in LA? No, not even this year. This year, you would still be like, yeah, it's probably still LeBron. LeBron's 40, and he still had to carry that man. AD has never been that dude. Good player. Hayes called him a star. Perfectly appropriate. Superstar? No. Carry your franchise? Absolutely not. Anthony Davis is a marvelous player, but our conversations about that guy have led to him saying stuff like this, including he's the top 75 all time. And it's ridiculous.
All right, so in a game of awake or dreaming, I think Matt Moore went comatose there for Anthony Davis, not even in this same universe. We're not done playing this game. On the other side, the Locked On SUNS podcast, they share some new reporting on what a potential Kevin Durant deal could bring back. Are they awake or are they dreaming? Plus, the Celtics and the Thunder face off tonight, a matchup between the NBA's two of the top teams in the NBA. John Corrales of Locked On Celtics shares his 3 keys for a Celtics victory. That's all ahead. Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Skims. When Skims launched underwear for men, you might have wondered, does it really live up to the hype? Well, now's your chance to experience it for yourself. If you've ever struggled to find underwear that actually fit right, whether it's the waistband rolling down, the briefs riding up, or just not having the right support, Skims changes everything. Their men's line is designed to be the most comfortable underwear you will ever wear, with options for everyone from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all made with premium materials that move with you and never lose their shape. Picture this. You put them on in the morning and they stay exactly where they should be. No bunching, no riding up, just pure comfort all day long. Whether you're hitting the gym, heading to work, or just kicking back at home, Skims makes sure that you're covered comfortably. So why not upgrade your underwear today? Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and in Skims stores. And don't forget, after you place your order, select podcast in the survey and choose our show from the drop-down menu. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We're going to continue this game of awake or dreaming with the Locked On SUNS podcast, where they have some new reporting on what a potential Kevin Durant deal could bring back.
Over at the Arizona Republic reported, quote, sources informed the Republic the most ideal return on a Durant trade is regaining 3 first-round picks and a young player as part of a multi-team deal tied to getting under the second apron. I think that's a little less than maybe you and I had thrown around in some of the examples we've been going through, Ben.
It does feel pretty low. I don't see why, if you're the Suns, why you would start anything outside of the moon and the stars and everything in between.
The moon, the stars, and everything in between. 3 picks, a young player being too low for a potential KD swap. Matt, are the Locked On Suns host awake, or are they snoozing? Are they dreaming?
They're absolutely dreaming. KD's 36, guys. Like, KD's still elite. He's awesome. He's 36. 3 picks, a young player, and you want to get under the cap? Like, you can get the picks if you take on some contracts. You can get the young guy if you don't get the picks. Like, you can't have all of this because you don't have any leverage. What leverage do they have, Hayes?
None. Zip, zero, zilch. The only way the Suns could get any type of leverage in a move like this is if they make a precursor move to get under the second tax apron first and then try to move KD. And even then, they only have so much. Like, to say that that's starting off low?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Luka just went for 1 first-round pick in AD. What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Do you think that NBA GMs, when they enter the next opportunity to trade, that the Luka deal has any effect, or are they all going to look at that and say that was a weird aberration thing?
Yeah, they're going to look at it and say I think it's an aberration thing. I think also, like, Rudy Gobert goes for 5 picks. DeJounte Murray goes for 5 picks. And then, like, other stars go for not, like, 1, right? Like, it's entirely contextual. There is not a standing vacuum market for guys, and that's just not how it ever works in the NBA.
Unless you're negotiating with Nico Harrison, because I'm not leaving any contract, negotiations with him if I'm not fleecing him. That's it, period.
I'm just waiting for Nico Harrison to attend any arena in the United States where a Fire Nico chat doesn't come up. I don't think he's managed it. I might have to go overseas. Might have to, like, attend Wimbledon or something before he can get out of that. All right. Let's talk about the big game tonight, Celtics and Thunder. The Boston Celtics look to even the season series against the Thunder tonight at TD Garden in a matchup between 2 of the NBA's best. Boston riding a 5-game winning streak, while the Thunder aim to build momentum after a tough loss to the Denver Nuggets. Here's John Corrales with what the Celtics need to do to win this game.
3 keys off the top of my head. Number 1, mental toughness, because OKC is going to be super handsy, super physical, and you cannot get caught up in arguing with the refs because you're going to get fouled and it won't get called. Number 2, Jason Tatum's passing. His passing is at a different level than it was even in that OKC game. So manipulation, understanding what OKC is doing, read it, react, get the ball to the right places, and make them pay for it. And number 3, Boston's double bigs, especially if Porzingis can play.
Yep.
That double big lineup, they like to get to the rim. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is like number 1 in the league in drives. He gets a ton of fouls. He gets to the line, a ton. If they can defend the rim and keep him from getting to the rim, then they have a real good chance of winning this game.
All right, Hayes, what do you think about those keys? You got a double big lineup versus double big lineup. What's your key to tonight's matchup for the Celtics or the Thunder?
I'm just waiting for if the Boston Celtics win this game, for John Corrales to label it again the best Celtics win of the season, because it's going to come, right? But I think that the double big matchup is going to be hugely important to that. But also Jason Tatum, we've talked about Jason Tatum before, like with him being who he is as a player and able to do everything on the court. Like, this is going to be a game with him and Shai. I know they're not going to necessarily be guarding each other, but I see this has the ability to turn down to a duel down the end of this game, and I think that's going to be an extremely fun thing to watch. So how the Celtics, how they manage their matchups. OKC Thunder's shooting is going to be hugely important in this one, especially with the way the Boston Celtics shoot 3. If the Thunder can't get going from 3, they have an inefficient night from 3, they can still win, but they're going to have to do everything else really well, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
I know J-Dub tonight, unfortunately, for the Thunder, so that sucks. But I think it's cute that Corrales is out here talking about like actual basketball stuff when it's like the Celtics just need to hit their threes. That's their entire team is based off of that. Create and hit threes. And if they do, then they'll win. And if they don't, then they'll lose. And everything else is just details.
I know it's March, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. Who is this game more important for? The Thunder or the Celtics, Matt?
I think it's Boston. I really do. I think Boston needs to be able to prove they can beat elite defenses and serious teams because they don't play them very often in the Eastern Conference. Like they faced the Cleveland Cavaliers 4 times. They've split with them, and there's no other team in the Eastern Conference that's serious. Can they be a team like the Thunder that can actually defend you on the perimeter? Can Peyton Pritchard go off for 40? Can Sam Hauser go off for 40 against Oklahoma City? If you can, hey, maybe you're just unbeatable. But if not, and if you don't hit threes, what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to actually win with serious basketball, or are you just going to have to rely on the math game entirely?
Hayes?
Yeah, I mean, the math game is going to play the biggest, I think, role in that. Like, you have to win that math game if they want to win this game. I think that's hugely important into this matchup, is that math portion of it.
I'll throw an argument for the Thunder, but particularly because they're without Jalen Williams. We've seen them win games without one or sometimes even both of their bigs, but let's see them win an elite matchup without Jalen Williams. I think that could be important for them. And, Matt mentions needing the Boston Celtics needing to get a win over an elite defense. We just saw the Thunder get smacked by a really good offense in Denver in the fourth quarter. So coming back and being able to reestablish their defense against Boston, I think would be huge for the Thunder. All right, let's wrap up today by lifting the rugs, looking behind the cupboard for delicious NBA nuggets that we may have missed in a segment, a recurring segment now that we're calling, Can We Talk About? Matt, what should we be talking more about right now?
Davion Mitchell shooting 38% from 3 for the Miami Heat. And he's got like a plus 19.6 half court on off split for Miami. He's having a real development season. Like he is emerging as like a serious player. And I think he's actually able to leapfrog this next year into becoming the kind of player that he was hyped as coming out of college. How about Jalen Clark with the Minnesota Timberwolves? Nobody's really talking about him getting really good minutes, providing them with actual quality minutes. He's been a huge part of the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of resurgence and surge here late in the season. He's been absolutely terrific. So those two guys are two that I think we should be talking more about.
I think we should be talking more and more about Dyson Daniels and his legitimate chance to be Defensive Player of the Year, at least get votes there. Not saying that he's going to win the award, but he's going to steal some votes there, and I think he should steal some votes. I get it, defense is more than just steals. What Dyson Daniels has been able to do and make steals an absolute part of his repertoire and an actual weapon that you can basically bet on for the Atlanta Hawks team. I think we should be talking more about that. Again, I don't think he's going to win. He's not going to win, but he's going to get more of that in that conversation. And also, the 4 teams in the Eastern Conference all fighting over who's going to avoid the 10th seed is hilarious just down the stretch as a conversation to watch and talk about as well, because you got 4 teams that are all looking at it just like, I don't want it. Do you want it? They're playing hot potato with the 10th seed.
Right now, FanDuel has Evan Mobley still as your favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year at minus 250, but not too far behind Dyson Daniels at plus 500. It would be nice to see a sort of guard forward-ish guy who steals a lot win the Defensive Player of the Year again, but Evan Mobley's play has been amazing. Draymond Green also plus 1,200 ahead of Jaren Jackson Jr. in the odds for Defensive Player of the Year.
Dyson has 120 more deflections than the second place guy, Kelly Oubre. Like, it's ridiculous. I would be all about Dyson winning this award if he didn't play for the Hawks, but unfortunately, this is the Trae Young tax.
All right. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts. That includes YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Hayes for their expertise. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.